Dav Tesvav Amid Beis will begin Tesvav Amid Aleph, the Mishnah 2 lines from the bottom. Zuk the Mishnah, B'chol Oisen L'chaim. You can make a lechi out of anything. Afilu b'davar sheish bo ruach chaim, even a living creature, even a living animal. Rav Meir, Oiser Rav Meir, it says it's also you cannot make a lechi out of with an animal. U'metam mishum goylo, and an animal is metama mishum goylo. If you have a covering over a kever, that covering is mekabel tuma, is metama. That now normally a behema is not mekabel tuma. Normally a behema is not metama. A living animal is normally not a source of tuma. But if it's used as a covering for a kever, that's what's called the tum of a goylo, a tum of a goylo, and the Tanakama says that it's metama. Rameir matar, and Rameir says it's not. V'kaisvan lav gitei noshim, and the Tanakama says that you can write gitei noshim, you can write a get on an animal. Rav Yosef Galili paisal. Rav Yosef Galili says no, it's possible you cannot. Tanya, Rameir Oimer, called davar sheish baruach chayim, any living animal, living creature. Ein oisim loloi doifen l'sukkah. You cannot use it as a doifen, as a wall for a sukkah. V'loi lechi l'movi, can't be used for lechi. V'loi pasan l'birois. And you cannot use it for the L-shaped corner mechitzas that we use for the people, the oil regalim that are drawing water from the well. They were matter, and there's possibly birois, these L-shaped mechitzas. You can't use an animal for that either. And it's not considered a cover, a goyla for the kever. Mishum Rabbi Yosef Galili Amru, he says, Af ein koisen alav gitei noshim. He says you cannot use it for gitei noshim either. My time is Rabbi Yosef Galili. What's the reason Rabbi Yosef Galili that he passes it for gitei noshim? The same we learn it in the Brisa. It says in the pasuk, it says v'kos of la sefer krisus, that the man, if he wants to divorce his wife, writes a sefer krisus. Ainly el sefer. I only know that it's kosher if he writes a sefer. If he uses a Megillah, then it's kosher. How do I know Minayin l'rab is called Dover? How do I know it to include other things? If it's written on other things that are not a sefer, Talmud Loimer v'kosav la mikol mokam. It says v'kosav la mikol mokam. In any event, in any which way, it could have said v'nosan. It didn't have to say v'kosav. It could have said v'nosan and also say v'krisus. It says v'kosav. It says v'kosav la mikol mokam. Im came out sefer. So why does it say sefer? If a sefer is lav davka. So loimer lach to teach you ma sefer davar shein baruach chayim ve'ino echol, just to teach you that just like a sefer is not a living creature, it doesn't eat. It's not a living creature. I've called davar shein baruach chayim ve'ino echol, something that has no life and that doesn't eat. But you cannot write it on an animal. And the Rabbanan say no. But the Rabbanan, they argue, says miksi bas sefer. It doesn't say that he writes the get in a sefer. It says because of law sefer krisus. So the sefer over here is not referring to a sefer. It means to me that something that is similar to a sefer, to Megillah. Sefer is not talking about the object what he's writing on. Sefer ksiv. The sphere is Rambam also. It's telling because of law sefer krisus that he writes for the text of the Sipur Dvarim, the relating of the inyan of the Gershon, the text of the Gershon. Now, we learned over here before that he said, he learned, Rav Yosef Galili said, the cause of law, mikol makam, is to include other things that are not a sefer. But the Rabbanan don't learn sefer to mean a Megillah. So what is the cause of law to teach you? How mi boile, b'ksiva migareshes, ve'en miskareshes b'kesev. It's to teach you that b'ksiva miskareshes, that it's not miskareshes, it's not miskareshes b'kesev. That you can't use money to effect a divorce. I might have thought, since there's a hackage between Kedushin and Gerushin, Ma Havaya Bekesef, just like Kedushin, you can affect Kedushin with money. Af Yatzia Bekesef, you might have thought that similarly you can divorce with money. By being Mekadosh, you give the money to the Isha, you're Mekadosh. You might think by the divorce as well, Kamash Malan, that you can't. So that's why it says that because of that we teach you to learn this out because of law for this purpose. Frektai says, what do you mean? We need because of law, we need to teach me the din of Lishma. Because of law Lishma, that the get has to be written for this particular woman, Taisa says, but it says twice because of law. Rav Yossi Aglili Hai Sora Minale. Rav Yossi Aglili, how does he know that you cannot affect Gerushin with Kesed? Nafkalim is Sefer Krisus. It says, because of law, Sefer Krisus. The package together, it's written together, Sefer and Krisus. Sefer Karsa, Bein Dover Achar Karsa, it's only the Sefer that makes a Gerushin, a get, but not money. Rabbanan High Sefer Krisus, me boile. Rabbanan say, no, you need that Sefer Krisus to teach me something else. The Dover Akaras Bein Ola Bein, a get has to be a complete severance. There has to be a final severance between the Isha and the Isha. He cannot have any condition hanging over her if after the divorce. Meaning, for example, look at the Sanya, like we learned in the Bryce, if he says he makes a condition to his wife, and with his wife, and he says, this is your get, on condition that you don't drink wine. Or that you don't go to your father's house. If he says this, if it's forever, if there's no time limit, ain't a krisus. It's not krisus because she's always bound to him, she's always bound to his condition. So there's no complete severance between them. I call Shleishim Yayim, Harez a Krisus, but if there's a time limit, if it's only Shleishim Yayim, it's only 30 days, then it's Krisus. Rav Yossi Galili, Nafklei Mekar is Krisus. Rav Yossi Galili says, yes, we learned this halach, but don't need it for Sefer Krisus. It could have said that because of law, Sefer Kores. Why does it say Krisus? It says the extra Krisus. We learn now the extra halacha, the Sefer Krisus. We learn this extra halacha that we learn out that you can't have any condition that's still binding the man and the woman. Rav Yossi not mikores krisus. Kores krisus we darshan both halachas. Rabbana kores krisus loy darshi. They don't darshan kores krisus. Rabbana kores krisus loy darshi. Tosfos asks that when the father's house, that he says even he makes a condition that you don't go to your father. And even if it's forever, but why is that not considered krisus? After the father dies, then she can go. So why don't we say that just like he says for 30 days, it's not considered a chasarna and krisus, even if he said he doesn't give a time limit, but she's only bound to the time that her father is alive. So Tosfos answers that Beis Avich doesn't mean that literally your father, it means your father's household. She's therefore restricted forever to go to her father's household. If the father's alive, the father. If he dies and it goes to the son, whoever inherits the father. It means the father's household. So therefore, it's an unlimited condition, and therefore there's a chasarna increases. If a caravan camped out in an open field, and they surrounded themselves with the kalim of the behema, for instance, saddles, etc. Then that serves to be a mechitza, and they can carry within that area, so long as what he surrounds them with, the kalim, are 10 tefachim high. In order to be mechitza, it has to be 10 tefachim high. And the open areas, the gaps can't be more than the closed areas. We said that you can't have that the parts is more meruba ala amud. So it has to be, the majority of it has to be enclosed. Kol pirtze shehiba keser b'amas muteras. Yeser mekan also. Any gap, any opening, which is that if it's within 10, and it's not more than 10, it's within 10 amas. So if it's 10 amas wide or less, it's considered to be a pesach. and it doesn't nullify the mechitza. But if it's more than 10 amas, it's not considered a pesach, it's considered to be a pirza, and it nullifies the mechitza. Zog the Gemara, itmar poretz ke'oimet. Now we learned in the Mishnah that you can't have more open area than closed area. If you do, it's not considered a mechitza. Let's say it's equal. Rav Papa Amar Mutter, he says if it's equal, then it's mutter. It's considered to be enclosed. Rav Huna Rav Yeshua Amar Aser, he says that it's Aser. Rav Papa Amar Mutter Hachag Marach Mar L'Maisha Leitifetz Ruba. The halach l'maishem yisina. This is all halach l'maishem yisina. That what the halachas of the mechitza. So the halacha is that don't have most of it porous. It cannot be a majority of it cannot be open. A majority, but if it's equal, then it's considered closed. Rav Hun Brei Rav Yeshua Amar Aser. He says it's Aser. Hachag Rachman l'maisha Geder Aruba. The halach l'maishem yisina is enclosed most of it. Most of it has to be enclosed. So now we learned in the Mishnah. It says that in the Mishnah we learned that if you surrounded the open field with the clay behema, you cannot have more open area than closed area, which implies ha kibinyan muter. It implies that if it's equal, then it's muter. So you see that as long as it's not majority open, if it's equal, then it's muter. Gemara says no. Don't say ha kim binyan muter. If it's equal, it's muter. Ema im binyan yiser al pirza muter. If the binyan is closed area is more than the open area, it's muter. That's how you have to understand it. Avla kim binyan mai. But if you're saying that if it's equal also, then ihachi listen lo yu pirzas kim binyan. Then it should say that the pirtzas, the open area, can't be equal to the binyan. If that's a get kasha, it's take kasha. It's a kasha. Tashma hamakara sukkasa b'shvudim aruchas amita. If he covers his sukkah, he roofs it with a shvudim spitz or aruchas amita bed frames. Now these things are possible for schach. You can't use them for the schach because of makabel tuma. So this is possible. Now, he now has to fill the gaps between them with kosher schach. So how much does he have to fill in? If you have the enough space, it's equal to these shudim aruch samita ksher. So which implies it's half of it is with aruch samita shudim, which are possible, half of it is kosher, then it's kosher, it's considered kosher. So you see over here that you don't need a majority. Even if only half the roof has kosher schach, it's kosher, then therefore you see that even of half of it, then it's still considered to be covered with the roof. The area on top is still considered to be covered with that material. The Gemara answers, no, we're talking over here that was nichtas v'yaitza, meaning you can easily, there's enough space over there to easily put the shvudim in and out. The gap between them is wide enough that the shvudim can come in and out, meaning that the space between the two is more than the width of the shvudim naruch samita. The open area, the airspace is actually a little bit more. It's more than that, and you can easily in and out put it into the space and take it out of the space. So there's more open area which you fill with the kosher schach. So in fact, there is a majority of the kosher schach. Frankly, more of a hefshel something, but you can make it exact, and if you can do it exact, if it could be made exact, therefore, when the Tana says that im yesh revach beinayim k'meisam, it should be taken literally and mean 50-50. More says amaravami b'ma'adif. No, it's talking where the gap is the size, the open space is more than the shvud maruch samita. Now, even though it's possible, but the Tana still would use that k'meisam even to mean non-literal, that it means that the open space is more. Maybe the pshat is because even though it's possible to be exact, but l'maisa, practically speaking, a person would not make it exact. He would have more space so that he can easily take it in and put it out. And therefore, when the Tana says Kemaisim, it doesn't mean literally exactly the same. There's more open area than there is with the area covered with the posel schach, so there's more kosher schach. Rav Amar gives a different teretz. He says, if the posel schach was placed, let's say in this direction, Erev, he puts the kosher schach on it lengthwise. Or alternatively, he says if that it was placed the other way, in Shasi, nice and Erev. If the posel schach was this way, then the kosher schach is this way. Either which way, he's going to have to overlap. The kosher schach is going to have to not only cover the spaces, but overlap the posel schach. So he's going to have more kosher schach than posel schach. So even if the gaps are, the airspace is equal, but l'maisa, he's going to have more kosher schach, because in order to, if the posel schach is this way, he has to put it this way. He's covering not only the space, but he's overlapping the posel schach. So the mice, in actual fact, there's going to be more kosher schach. Tashma, let's bring it right from the following Sheyar Shechansa Bebika, a caravan that camped in the open area, V'hikifu Gemalim, and they were surrounded with camels, Ukafes, and with saddles. They surrounded the area. They made mechitzas with Gemalim, Ukafes, Ba'abitim, with cushions, B'shlifin, and with bundles, B'kanim, Kolachais, and with reeds, and with stalks. So they made this mechitza around them. If it's 10 tvachim high, so there's a mechitza, metaltal b'seichin can carry in this area. But you can't have a space, a gap between each camel, the same area, the same size as the camel that's next to it. And you can't have a gap, you can't have a space between one saddle and the other saddle, the size of the saddle. And the cushion, the width of the cushion. So here also it implies you can't have it with the same size. So it can't be equal. That it has to be, therefore, it has to be more. If it was just equal, then it would be paretz ki'oimed, it would not be mechitza. So it implies that you have to have an enclosed area that's more than the open area. Now, what we're talking about over here is that we're talking where the space is nichnas v'yaitza is wider than the object, and therefore the gaps are more than it. So when it says bein ovid la'ovid k'molei ovid, you can't have between one cushion and another cushion a gap that's the width of the cushion. It means the width of the cushion that you can have it slide in and out easily, meaning you can't have a gap that's more than the cushion. But if it would be equal to the cushion, I'll tell you that no, it would be kosher.